We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. And right away, we want to say thank you to Lee Overstreet for guest co-hosting on our regular episode last week. And then also thank you to Joe Klusnick for joining me last week for the...
Who's that?
Yes.
I know.
Yeah. Lee Overstreet was the regular episode, and Joe Klusnick was our special CEDIA 2025 Breakout episode.
I like Joe. So that's great.
There. So yes,
Thanks,
it was
Joe.
a double dose of AVRant last week. If you somehow missed it, because they were episodes number 984 and 984.5, because it was a special breakout episode for CEDIA 2025.
Right.
But there they were.
Anything
last
exciting
week,
happened at CEDIA? Because I clearly did not listen to the episode.
Yeah, so like we sort of summarized, this was not a big year for announcements of new products. It was that like all of the high-end processor groups, they're all going headlong into AV over IP. So like all connections via Ethernet. That was like the big trend for all of the major processor companies. But yeah, we didn't have like a whole bunch of new projectors or a whole bunch of new processors other than that Trinov Altitude CI that we already talked about. So yeah, it wasn't a big year for announcements, but yeah, mostly a refinement and everything's going Ethernet these days. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Isn't it though?
Isn't it though?
So shall we start with where you were last week and your updates, or do we want to do headlines first? I don't know.
Go ahead, get your headlines out of the way, because I don't want to depress everybody. Like,
well,
you
that's
should be able to fast forward. Let's just
we will. Yeah, I can put the timestamps in. Gary was like, yeah, just put timestamps in for the news, because he's like, I don't want to hear any of it, and that's fair enough. Fair enough these days.
I don't want to hear it. It's against my will, but here we are.
Yeah. No, I mean, last week started off like immediately after the podcast recording started off awful, because a couple of high-profile shootings in the United States. Worst one, Evergreen High School in Denver, Colorado. They had two students who were critically shot. The shooter themselves was a student there, shot themselves. So that was just absolutely horrible, tragic event. And then there was the very high-profile shooting of the right-wing podcaster Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. So shooter there turned themselves in after the fact on the prompting of their father, and yeah, just a whole maelstrom of horrible news to do with that. And then we had Russian drones that violated Polish airspace. That doesn't sound great. NATO's kind of weighing their options what to do about that, and President Trump said that NATO should stop importing Russian oil, which, you know what, that's not actually an unreasonable request given the state of things, but that they should also impose US-like sanctions, otherwise the US will not impose further sanctions on Russia. So a little bit of quid pro quo or something like that, using that as a negotiating tactic doesn't seem like the best, but the Israel Defense Force conducting airstrikes in Qatar, right, or Qatar, however is the proper way to pronounce that. So that's expanding, doesn't seem fantastic, and so the Department of Defense has a secondary name in the United States now, right? It's back to being the Department of War, so from pre-World War II times.
We just like a lot of, some people are, but that seems silly.
U.S. government is apparently spending upwards of $1 billion to do all the rebranding and everything like that. So it seems like a great use of taxpayer funds. For Congress is the only one that can rename
doing so well that it totally justifies this expenditure of money.
Seems like did have some interesting news though in Brazil, right? Because Bolsonaro and Neto and some of the former military leaders from the previous regime, Brazil's Supreme Court upheld a prior conviction from a lower court for their attempted coup in 2022. So Bolsonaro himself was given a 27-year prison sentence. However, not incarcerated yet, because Brazil, they have a Supreme Court and then they have an 11-justice full Supreme Court, which I did not realize. They had like a smaller Supreme Court and a larger Supreme Court. So
it's like ordering a pizza over there.
There will be an appeal to the larger Supreme Court, no doubt. So there you go. And what else? So finally some contentiously happy news in my country of Canada. Our Liberal government sort of managed to stay in power by saying that one of the things they were going to do was fund a whole bunch of major projects from coast to coast to coast across Canada. And so the first 5 of those major projects, they're all going to be fast-tracked, like have these things done within 2 years is the type of goal, which is like 5 years faster than normal federal government projects. So that's all been announced. And even Alberta's premier is on board, which is like remarkable. To have Alberta's premier on board with anything the federal government wants to do is like unheard of. So
I assume that's a Midwestern type of thing going on there.
Well, Alberta is Canada's Texas, so
okay.
When you have a liberal
I was going to say
government,
Texas, but I felt like we have enough listeners in Texas. I don't want to insult anybody.
We often say that's the case. So yeah, naturally, the contentious part of it in Canada is that yes, this does have to do with natural gas and oil refining and things like that. So of course, it's on the one side you got the environmental side saying, hey, we don't really love this, but on the other side, it's like, yeah, that's how we get rich. So. What's going on there? And then the happiest news of all last week, let's end on a happy note. The Perseverance rover on Mars detected these very characteristic patterns on rocks from like several million years ago, and they've like eliminated virtually all explanations for what those patterns could be other than that there was ancient microbial life on Mars. They seem pretty darn certain of that. So some pretty remarkable science news there. It's not really having the bring the world together impact of the notion that in our very own solar system, life has almost certainly begun at least twice just in our very own backyard, which is amazing, mind-blowing scientific news. Doesn't really seem to have had the impact I was hoping for, but there you go. Yeah,
maybe the news hasn't reached the black side of the disc.
Something like that. Something like that. All right, headlines over.
Headlines over, thank God.
Yes.
Think whatever. So, obviously, last week I was gone, and as you know, I purchased a new house, and
yes,
we on Friday, which was the Friday after the podcast, so the day the podcast came out, we record on Tuesdays, podcast comes on Thursday, but Friday was the big move day. Okay. So my wife took off work, and I took off work, and we had some movers come in, and they took all the furniture from the apartment and brought it over here. That just meant that we could no longer sleep over there, so we had to start sleeping here.
Oh, so I haven't even noticed you are in the new house now?
I am in the new house now.
Okay, because it's quite a nondescript room that didn't look vastly different from the room you've been in all this time. So I didn't even. I'm remiss. I didn't even notice when we got on this call.
It is a completely different room. Yes,
okay,
and I am. Wow. So this is not the room I will be. I don't know where we're going to record or anything. Gotcha. I don't know where anything is. Right now, we are still almost completely in boxes. So we have spent the weekend trying to unload things and find where places are going to go. And, we're going through boxes that have been packed for a year. So they have a very particular smell to them. So everything needs to be washed or gone through and stuff. So it's a slow process. But we've got a little bit of a home theater set up, so that the one room my wife has decided is going to be the theater room is extremely small. It's like 11.
Hey, let's not gloss over that. That's huge news for the AVRant community. Is that it's been agreed to.
I think it's 11 by 13 by. I think these ceilings are 10, so it's essentially a cube. So.
Pretty darn close. And you know what? That's very close to the dimensions of my tiny little den apartment. So you and I are going to be like home theater buddies in terms of the size.
So we took the couch that somebody donated to us, which is way too big, I think, and we put it in there, and you can barely walk past it to get.
Sounds right.
To sit down. And my wife's like, I was like, yeah, this is, I'm looking at this thing's probably 10 feet, and I'm looking for a couch that's like 70 to 80 inches, which is quite a bit smaller than that. Because it's just the two of us. 99.9% of the time, it's just the two of us. And the boys never want to watch TV with us. They never want to watch what we're watching. And so they watch their own stuff. and they're in there by themselves, so it doesn't make any difference. And she's like, well, this couch actually isn't too big. I'm like, yes, it is. It's way too big. What are you talking about?
I mean, it fits
huge.
within the boundaries of the walls, so technically not.
Technically fits, but I'm like, no, I want to have something that's not like oppressively large. Something I can move around a little bit if I have to. So I'm trying to figure out where speakers going to go and stuff like that. Yes. So I set up. I set up the same TV from before. It's about a 50-inch TV, and I'm going to maybe 55-inch. I'm going to tell you, I don't know that I can go much bigger. We are. Right. So close to that TV. It's ludicrous.
Well, like I've got the couch that's like 72 inches wide, so right about the size that you were talking about. But then I've put the pair of cylinder subs on either side of that, so squishing by there is every bit as squishy as your current large couch to the walls.
So I've set up. The speaker wire I had was either flooded or nearly flooded, and I was struggling to get the wire stripped and to do everything a bare wire connection. I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm going to go to Best Buy and go get myself some speaker wire and some banana connections.
Plugs.
And I'll just do it. It's fine. I'll just pay the extra. I'll just go to... I'm never going to Best Buy again. They so hard trying to sell me on a like an 8-foot Audio Quest.
Of course,
it was like $189. I'm like, have you lost your? And I can't say the word mind. I'm like,
Audio Quest has definitely taken the place of Monster Cable now that they're all but defunct in everything other than licensing names.
So I bought the banana plugs, which were like $16 for 2 pairs, just for one cable. I'm like, that is
yikes.
Ridiculous, but whatever. It's the only option I have. I'll just buy this, but I'm not spending $50 for 25 feet of speaker cable, speaker wire. I'm like, okay, so I'm just. You
could have gone to Home Depot instead of Best Buy.
And Home Depot's on the way home, so I went by Home Depot and I grabbed some speaker wire, and I was for like $9 or $13 for 25.
They've got banana plugs too. I'm pretty darn sure
they do. They're awful because I bought them.
Okay.
They're terrible. They're so hard to work with, Rob. They're so bad. I'm just like, but I was like, I'm definitely for like $3 I get 10 pairs. Sure. I'm like, I can't.
Exactly.
Like, first of all, why do you sell 10 pairs? You can't
10. Well, yeah, that's 5, right? For a 5.1 system on either end.
It's 5 of each. So it's not 10 pairs. It's 5 of each.
Oh, it's 5 pairs.
It's 5 pairs, but they say 10 banana plugs, and I'm like, okay, that's enough because I only need 3 cables because I'm only doing the front 3 right now.
Oh,
and I get home, and I'm like, wait a second. So luckily, I had a one set of one wire from SVS sent me wires a long time ago. I used one, but the other one wasn't long enough, so I left it in the box, the plastic bag, and that lived through the flood. So I have one really nice cable and a bunch of crappy ones that I built myself. I'm like, this is fine for now. So I set up the front 3 for now. Set up the front 3, set up the Apple TV, got the TV working and everything. And the TV, like the receiver is on the little stand I think we actually purchased this from Facebook Marketplace for a paltry sum. And the TV's like offset to one side. So it's like it all looks a little weird because the receiver's too big and I didn't want to put the receiver on the ground again. But it's all set up. We're in there. Good. It's kind of nice. The KEF speakers and continue to impress. I think I have the NHT little center that somebody sent.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right.
Because the other one is, first of all, it's freaking huge. It's insanely large.
The DefTech. Yeah, the DefTech Center as well, right?
The DefTech Center is big, number one. And number 2, I can't find it. It's in a box someplace in this house. It's somewhere. But I did find a container that's full of SVS satellite speakers that came off of my walls. So I will have... and then I still have to get the prime elevation speakers off of the ceiling in my other house.
They're still back there.
They're still, I didn't take them off. I mean, I need a ladder. Who's going to do that?
Well, how is the rest of the house?
So the rest of the house is coming along. So we got we got the house painted, which was the big thing when we first moved in. We needed to have the house painted, and we wanted to have a bunch of other stuff done, but we just ran out of time. Whereas, like, we got to move in. We got to get the apartment emptied. We got to clean the apartment so that we can get back at least some of our security deposit. And then the big thing is not the big thing for me, was that we wanted to get Felix back, which is our large dog, which we have not had for a full year. He's 90 pounds. He's they don't call him Southeast guide dogs anymore, but he was a breeder for them, and they, we just could not have him at the apartment because they have all these rules about. This is a reminder for people that don't remember this. All these rules about where he can go, what other dogs he can be with, because he's unfixed, because he's a breeder dog. He's technically their property, and we're just housing him for now.
I see. Okay.
And so we can't take him to dog parks, which is the only place we could take him there. He can't be around dogs that don't have all their shots. He can't be around dogs that are not fixed. He can't be around male dogs pretty much at all. Like, really, it's really, you have all these other, and definitely not unfixed female dogs because of obvious reasons. Of course. Yes. So we were like, okay, we can't take him into this apartment. First of all, the apartment's too small. And second, what are we supposed to do with a 90-pound dog that we can take to a dog park and can't have around other dogs?
Yeah, no kidding.
So the thing is he's a runner. He's always been a runner. Like, if the door opens, he's out. And we live on a busy street, which you may be hearing in the background because I'm right at the front of the house. And you enter the house through the back, which is fine. And we can't really hear the traffic too badly. I'm sitting literally right next to the window. But there is 20 feet from the front door, maybe 30 feet from the front door to this very busy street. And if he bolts out, that's it. That dog's not making it. He's not going to make it. So I was like, we cannot have him in this house until we get a fence in that front yard. We have a side yard and a little bit of a backyard that is fenced in, and I'm less worried about that. But if that front door gets opened and he goes out, and it's happened at my other house a couple of times, he's not going to survive. So we're having a fence. So we got to get a fence. So you may hear the fence being installed. We are picking him up today at 5:30, and the fence is getting installed today. Gotcha. So the fence guy is supposed to get here any time now. So I don't know what's happening with that. So yes, we're about to be completely reunited. With the entire family will finally be back in some form or another. So it is still a lot to do. We don't have, we don't have any furniture still. We still have everything we're living with is either we got after the storm or some, a lot of times people were like, I was just about to buy another couch anyways. It's on the way. Here's the couch that we don't like because it's ugly, stained, and uncomfortable. I'm like, we'll take it. So now we're sitting on an ugly, stained, and uncomfortable couch.
Right.
That is totally not our style. So
nevertheless, congratulations.
Thank you.
Because this is still big news, and it's a big progress and well-deserved, and it's been a long time coming. So that's all good.
It'll be a couple more weeks before we're maybe even more than that, a couple of months before we're fully settled in. But it's... So last week I was not here. I also had a job that my first corporate training gig with this company that I got was on Tuesday at 10 because that's when everything is scheduled.
Naturally.
Went well. I'm very happy with how it went, but I was very distracted. So we had all this stuff going on with the move, and I was also prepping for this one. So 1 hour. It was really not. I don't know why I was so stressed about it, but
because the first one you're doing for the new company. So
naturally, I wanted to do good. I wanted to do well, but at the same time, I shouldn't have lost as much sleep over it as I did. The real problem is on Friday they canceled, and I was like, whew, I can relax over the weekend. I don't have to do anything. And on Monday, like a little bit less than 24 hours before I was supposed to do it, they were like, all right, it's back on.
It's back on. Gotcha.
So that really killed me.
No kidding.
But yeah, it was good. So yes, I have moved.
Congrats.
Here we are. Yes.
All righty.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, just before we start the rest of the show, honestly, the thing's not too bad in my end of the how personal life things and that, but I do have a bit of a warning for everyone because As anyone who's still on Windows 10 is probably aware by now, they're putting up the warnings that saying like, hey, all of the security updates and that are ending for Windows 10, but there's an option to extend it for another year until October of 2026. And heavens knows what'll happen after that, because Microsoft usually keeps extending these things as long as there's a sizable portion of the population still using it. And I think that will likely be the case for Windows 10, but it just happened to be a very unfortunate coincidence because my mother was, they actually have like 3 computers at their place, so they have a laptop that they barely use the laptop. But she was on the laptop. She does a few little photo things with some of her friends on that, so there's nothing like critical or important. But it was like there, and the warning came up. And it was just a horrible coincidence because right as the warning came up on the computer of, hey, you're going to be losing your Windows 10 security updates, clicks here to extend them and everything, got a phone call from a scammer at like exactly the same moment. That and the scammer claiming they were from Microsoft.
As they do, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, not all the scammers say they're from Microsoft. This one happened to be, and it happened to be right as she was looking at this pop-up that was a legitimate pop-up on Windows about the Windows 10 security thing, but it happened to be right then. And I mean, so look, this is a common scam that they're running right now because the scammers are well aware that many people are getting this message. And so thankfully, didn't get all the way through the process of the scam, and like I say, thankfully it was on the laptop that they barely use anyway, but did get to the point with her on the phone of installing the horrible malicious software that lets them take control of your computer. I've got their place set up so that their computers are not networked together, so that the one computer cannot talk to another computer at their house, and they don't have any other passwords stored on that laptop. So all things considered, there's not a ton that the scammers could do, thank goodness. Thank goodness it wasn't on the downstairs computer, although that's on Windows 11, so it wasn't getting those types of updates anyway. But yeah, just a heads up. I mean, it can happen to the best of us. My parents are not dumb. It just happened to be this horrible coincidence that seemed awfully like, oh, just got the warning on my computer. Here comes the phone call. They say they're from Microsoft. It was like just coincidental, horrible timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, thankfully my dad ended up picking up the computer, the phone at some point. He's like, what is this? And just hung up on them. So that was good. And they didn't get all the way through the scam. No money was exchanged or anything.
Yeah,
but,
it's definitely going around. These things happen in cycles, I feel like, because it's like you'll hear about 2 or 3.
And the scammers are getting better. Like they are getting more sophisticated. They are sounding more convincing. And yeah, so it's not great. We seem to have escaped how bad things could have potentially gone for them. But yeah, not fun times. But just be one. And you know what? If you're someone who's like, I don't want to be tech support for my parents or for my grandparents or my aunts or uncles who are older or whatever it is, it's like, just think completely selfishly only for yourself. Just think of your own inheritance, okay? Because that could all be wiped out remarkably quickly with these horrible, horrible scammer people.
Pretty sure my dad has been like regularly sending money to a scammer because of being told that he had tolls, like he went on a toll road. There's a lot of toll roads around here and stuff like that. I think he's been regularly. Like he was talking to me about it. It's like, do you get these calls about the toll roads? I'm like,
oh my God. Yes.
No one calls you. Let's just put it this way. No one ever calls you.
Microsoft is never going to call you. Like the
police department doesn't call you.
Right.
They just show up. Okay. If you are in trouble with the police department, the way you know is they show up at your door and then they take you away.
The police are not going to email you.
Yes.
But I mean, like the thing is, at your bank, there could be a legitimate phone call from the security, overseers at your bank. That can happen. If anything like that ever happens, they will gladly accept you saying, I'm not sure if this is a legitimate call. Let me call the number on the back of my card. And they'll be like, yes, do that. Like the legitimate security people will be like, yes, that's a great idea. Do that, because the alert will be on your account. The regular customer service people will be able to put you right through to security department. If they're like, no, don't hang up the phone. Stay with me on this line. After I just get like, nope. Yeah. Legitimate people will never, ever do that. So that's just a tip to pass along to all your loved ones and perhaps yourself, because we can all use the reminder. None of us are impervious to, scams 100%. It could happen to anybody. So just a quick reminder there.
Yes, please. And because like you said, it can happen to anybody.
It sure.
All right. So this week, what did you watch, Rob? I watched a couple. I've seen the last 2 weeks. I've watched a couple of things. So.
Right. All right.
Should I go first? Should I go first? Because
sure,
usually
why not? We haven't heard from you in a while. So yeah, what has Tom watched?
So my wife decided that she wanted to watch a movie. So because of the AVRant listeners, I've got, well, let's say, access to a number of movies. And one of those, so I gave my wife the remote and I had her go through the Fandango at Home library, and she picked Dark Waters.
Okay. Which
is a movie with Mark Ruffalo and Anne Hathaway. It's like a crazy cast. There's like Tim Robbins is in it. Like I'm like, hey, that's the guy. That's the guy who played Chidi from on The Good Place. It's crazy. I'm like, I keep seeing people. I'm like, who's that? Why are they here? So what the movie is about is I guess technically ongoing litigation against DuPont for Teflon.
Right.
Which for a lot of you are very young in my book, but I remember when this whole thing started. Like I remember when they started reporting on Teflon being dangerous for you, and I remember the counter reporting that was being, the memification, which we didn't call it that back then, but the jokes that people would make to make light of it, so that people would not take the news seriously, which is what they still do today, except they call it memification, but they call it a bunch of other stuff as well. But basically, a very serious thing happens. Somebody says, oh, yeah, Teflon's going to kill you. And then you are able to laugh off the story. So I remember being part of that group that was like, oh, come on, how dangerous can this be? Blah, blah, blah. And I watched the movie and I'm like, what? Why was I taking it so not seriously? Like, why was this not? How did I get convinced? Thing of,
like, cooking on a Teflon coated pan is not dangerous.
But if you heat it up too much,
if you heat it up far too much, or if you scratch it, just physically scratch it with a metal fork or something like that.
Yeah. I've never owned a Teflon pan that was not scratched, by the way.
Right.
They all are scratched.
The gigantic dumping from the Teflon chemical plants into the local water supply. That was the major thing.
That was the main issue. But the fact that we have, and it's funny because people look at media and like movies and stuff like that, and you're like, we often say that it's sort of a barometer for what the zeitgeist is worried about, or what the direction that the world is going, and people are like, oh, no, it's just entertainment, it's just this, it's just that. We look back at like Blade Runner and these and even like The Fifth Element and Alien and that sort of thing, where like massive corporations have way too much power and are completely abusive and exercising that power and irresponsible with it. And we think to ourselves, oh, well, that'll never happen. We've got government oversight and stuff like that. And now I'm looking around right now and going,
the amount I thought it was ridiculous that the Council on Krypton was not listening to the scientists about the Earth destroying, or the Krypton,
the planet being destroyed, right?
Coming catastrophe. I thought, that's not real life. It was ridiculous. How could they not listen?
So, and you see what DuPont did in this movie, and how they ignored not only other research that they knew had been done by other companies, 3M in particular, who helped develop Teflon, but their own research, and how they were like, oh, well, at first I don't say try to do the right thing, but at first they were like, oh, well, we can't have women be on the line on the Teflon line because it causes birth defects. We see this over and over again in the research.
Right.
So they pulled all the women off the line, and then one woman had a baby with birth defects, and she said, was this because I was on the Teflon line? Is that why you pulled us off? So they pulled them all back on again just so that they could not be sued. So it didn't look so obvious. I'm like, what? Like, what? Wow. How is this? How? And I don't think that any individual person is, well, let's put it this way. I think that most people are not the villains in their story. They are not sitting there saying to themselves, how can I be evil today? That the guy that cut you off in traffic did not wake up that morning and go, I am going to find you the person who's listening to the story and cut them off. That doesn't or they like, I don't like people who drive your car, and I'm going to make sure that I make their life difficult today. I don't think that's what people do. But it sure seems like somebody over at DuPont was like, I haven't ruined enough lives. I haven't done enough evil.
The faced with the choice, they're remarkably capable of compartmentalizing and just looking at things as purely figures. I mean, I've been saying recently, think how awful the very common phrase that we use today is of human resources. We don't think of that as a nefarious title for a division of any company, but just think of those words together. Human resources. We have chemical resources, we have financial resources, we have building resources, and then we have human resources, and that's just the way we think of them. They're just another figure on the sheet. Yeah. These are our human resources to make use of however we see fit. It's
somebody is just too far removed from it. So. It's a very good movie. It's very well done. I will say that they had the guy. So in the movie, if you watch to the end, the guy who the movie is, whose life there's the fence guy.
Okay. Tom still has a window right in front of him. Not much has changed.
Nothing's changed there, but nobody's walking their dogs because it's too dangerous. The guy who the movie is based on is in the movie, like briefly, he has like a cameo. He's kind of in the background dancing or talking or whatever. And with it, whatever. And they show him, and Mark Ruffalo's character, I was like, ooh, he clearly put on weight. He has like this very specific facial expression that he's making the entire time, with like his lower lip sort of pushed forward, like his jaw pushed forward the entire time. And I'm like, wow. It's not really like, you kind of want Chris Evans to play you in the movie, right? You don't want like overweight, weird jaw Mark Ruffalo playing you in the movie. I'm like, why does he look like that? Because the guy doesn't look like that when you see him. But maybe, like I said, I only saw him for a second, and maybe he did look like that in the earlier. It was
like one picture or something. Yeah, that they took the inspiration from. Maybe, who knows?
that was the funniest part. But what an interesting. It's a very, very good movie. I would highly recommend it. The other movie I saw, which I recommend less, is which I've seen before and I saw again because my 16-year-old son loves it and wanted to watch it, is High School Musical. For those of you who have not seen it,
the original, the Zac Efron and all that. Okay,
the original one was Zac Efron doing all the lip syncing because he couldn't sing that high. I actually did some research on it while we were watching it because it's not that good of a movie.
And before he was gigantic, that he put on all that crazy amount of muscle for the wrestling movie.
Yes, that movie's budget must have been like somebody's lunch money. I mean, the movie has got no budget whatsoever. Okay. It looks like it's filmed at
must have made a profit then, because it was very popular.
It clearly has commercial breaks. Like it clearly does. Like you could see Disney where Channel. Like this is where the commercial would have gone in, because they just fade to black and it fades back up. All right, where's the commercial? But no matter how bad that movie is, and it is, the songs are awful. There's, I mean, the singing is fairly good. There's, but the writing of the songs is just terrible. I mean, I'm like, wow, that was a really forced rhyme, and you couldn't have come up with a better word than that.
They didn't have AI back then, Tom.
I guess
what were they to do?
What were they to do? They just had to pay actual people, and then when they can't pay them very much money, you don't get very good people.
That's right.
But the most of the actors did their own singing, and they all do a very good job. Zac Efron ends up, I think, later on singing in the movies, but he's a baritone, and the part was written for a tenor, so he can't sing. So he'll start off some of the songs like in the lower register, and then it transfers to a higher where they have another person singing it. But no matter how bad that movie is, and it is like legitimately, objectively not a good movie, I completely enjoy myself every time I watch it. Like I am having a good time. The characters are all stereotypes. The writing is all terrible, but the plot, the story is just silly enough and just ridiculous enough.
And it's just the sheer energy of the thing is enough to carry the momentum forward. Yeah.
It's heartfelt. You know what I mean? I mean, it's got all the beats that you expect a movie like that to have. It's
course.
got the snatching defeat from the jaws of victory thing. A little twist at about 2/3 of the way through, and then they have to come around, and then they are successful, and it's so stupid. It's so bad, but it's also short. It's like an hour and a half, and you're in and out, and what a terrible movie, but also fun. So, I mean, I don't. If I had to rate that movie, I have no idea how I would rate it. I would say it's a 3 out of 10. Go see it.
Yeah.
But
You'll
does
have
that make
fun.
you want to see it?
Turn your brain off. Yeah, fair enough.
It's just. And my 16-year-old son sitting next to me singing every song. Now, the reason why we have to watch this movie every once in a while was because he would go to summer camp, and the last song is called like "Breaking Free" or whatever, and and the line is "Soarin', flying," and my son's name is Soren, so one of the camp counselors would sing that at him all the time, and we had no idea what it was. And then one of our friends' kids was like
soaring, like the word soaring, with dropping the G.
Yes.
And that's not how your son's name is spelled, but
no, it's not.
It's a homonym.
But that's how it's sang. It's Soren without a G, and he would sing it all the time, and we never knew. And then somebody said, "Oh yeah, that's from High School Musical," and we're like, "Are you?" Like 2 years ago, we learned this, so we've watched it a couple of times since. So yes. Terrible movie. You should see it. What did you watch, Rob?
Well, speaking of things that are like entirely about the current zeitgeist, I watched Megan 2.0. Now, I really enjoyed the original Megan. That was done as sort of a comedy horror movie. Yeah. And not the gigantic budget on the original Megan, but I really, really enjoyed that movie. And, they kept it sort of small and contained, but I thought they did a great job with this, artificially intelligent, essentially life-size doll. You've got the young girl whose parents are killed. She ends up living with her aunt. And, the aunt is creating this doll, and she's not really like used to being a parent in any way, and it's just how all of that plays out, and I really, really like the first one. So I can right away say I did not enjoy Megan 2.0 as much as the original Megan, but
I do universally been reported in my experience.
I do appreciate that, so as everyone saw, as is evident from the trailer, they're doing the Terminator versus Terminator 2 type of plot, although it wasn't quite as direct as that. I was a little bit pleasantly surprised that it wasn't like full on just exactly the way Terminator 2 went versus the original Terminator. And what I appreciate is that, they were trying to shift genres here. This is not a horror movie at all. This is kind of like it's an action movie. It's a fighting and action movie. And so, not a gigantic surprise from the trailers, but I just appreciate that they did that. I didn't feel it ended up quite as successful as the original one. Now, the issue here is that yes, it's all about AI, and it's all about a self-aware, robot that isn't Megan. That's ostensibly the antagonist that we're certainly introduced to at the beginning of the movie. It's the whole fear of just how rapidly can AI develop, and once it becomes self-aware, what are its priorities going to be, and all of those types of things. And it's just like, one of the great things about the first movie is that it wasn't afraid to slow down at points and have like kind of poignant, touching moments that I thought elevated that first Megan movie beyond just being a, run-of-the-mill horror film. This movie does not slow down for 1 second. It's just like, just move. Let's get the dialogue out there. Let's not pause for a moment to think about anything. Like, let's just go. And let's do that to partially gloss over the fact that, like, yeah, this is, kind of an action coming from a small budget horror movie where obviously we're not really going to be able to delve into all the consequences of AI and self-awareness of machines and stuff. So we're going to try and sound smart, but we're not going to dwell on anything long enough for you to notice whether what we said was smart and reasonable or not. We're just going to keep on going. And they had the little very obvious, intentional throwback to the, like, you know, Megan is gonna sing again in what's supposed to be kind of a touching scene, but they're just completely undercut it with the comments that the characters in the scene are making. Like, that was an intentional choice for comedy purposes. But I just kind of felt like, oh, we didn't get any scenes that kind of slowed down and took its time, and so it just doesn't have that elevated feeling of the first Megan movie. So yeah, we got the whole returning, you know, main cast. Allison Williams is back, and we got Violet McGraw as her niece that she's taken care of. Amy Donald is back as Megan again, with a fun little excuse for why she's bigger now, because the actress that portrayed Megan in the first movie has grown up a little bit. And so Brian Jordan Alvarez and Jen Van Epps, who were the assistants, and I wasn't expecting to see back, they were back. And then Ivana Sakno, who she was the blonde sort of apostle in Ahsoka, right? You had the trio of, or no, just the two sort of dark Jedi. They weren't exactly Sith, right? But she was standing next to Ray Stevens.
Yes.
Is it Stevens or Stevenson?
Pixie looking. I hope that's not an insult.
She looks small next to Ray.
Yes.
She is
huge.
not a short woman. He's gigantic. When you see her next to Megan, she's like, oh, she's really tall. But yeah, so she's there, and so I did kind of appreciate, as you would expect. It's like, yes, there is sort of like a group that's working with the new robot, sort of, you know, behind the scenes in affairs, and I kind of liked the way that they were portrayed in the movie as like the ultimate sort of antagonists and villains in this. I thought it was, I'm not going to spoil it, I thought it was kind of a fun take, and doing the whole thing of, you know, like they have a reason why they're doing this, why they're releasing this self-aware robot onto the world, you know, because good villains should believe that they're doing the right thing, and so they have that in this movie, and I appreciated it. I liked it. I liked that portrayal. So it's not that I disliked this movie actively, it's just it wasn't as good as Megan. It didn't have the sort of elevated feeling of it. I appreciate what they were trying to go for, but I sort of feel like they just tried to gloss over too many things, go too quickly, be a little bit too glib about everything, and so it just didn't have that same sort of emotional, I actually feel attached, and I really felt like it went above and beyond the way the first movie did. This didn't go above and beyond, but it's a perfectly watchable movie. You'll have a fun time with it. There's some fun little jokes in there, but yeah, that was Megan 2.0.
So I'll probably talk about it next week, but I am almost through this first season. I think I'm through the first season. I feel like they keep adding episodes of Secret Level on Amazon Prime. So Secret Level is basically each episode is a different video game or a different game. The first one is D&D, so I don't consider that a video game, but most of the rest of them are video games, and it's all animated. I have some thoughts about some of the episodes in particular. I'll tell you right now, Mega Man got done dirty in this, and I really am mad about it.
But we'll get to that next week. We got lots to get to this week, so there we go.
So let's get started with the podcast. This is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Come to the website. You can find our shows, our show notes, and links to Flickr albums. You can follow along with the pictures of which we will be speaking. You can also, there'll be links as well for any articles or products so if we make recommendations, you can go and find those.
Check the show notes. It's a good resource.
One of these days I'll figure out how to give Rob access to my Amazon link thing.
Create affiliate links.
That'll give affiliate links. But for now,
we only had many years to figure that out. But one day,
who's got time? I've been busy.
Here at the end of our episodes, we're gonna have to change the format of the podcast whether we want to or not. We'll finally do that.
So you can find us at facebook.com/AVRant podcast, youtube.com/AVRant. That all the pictures and stuff will be integrated into the video there. Contact Rob directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. And I do sometimes answer emails. So I definitely get them now. That's for sure.
Okay.
All right. I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. This week we had, this last 2 weeks, we had Sasi did that. So thank you very much, Sasi.
Yeah, Sasi, thank you very much for the PayPal donation. We appreciate your financial support.
I have trapped my iPhone cable. Okay, I got it. Sorry.
Okay.
I was like, oh. I realized that the arms on this chair were too high, and I was kind of sitting like this,
thing.
and I fixed it, but then I dropped the
cords.
If you want to support us monthly, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast to become a monthly contributor. Patreon will take whatever money you say. I think it's a minimum of $1 a month from you. So $12 a year. I think it's well worth it for our advice. And hopefully entertainment value. 127 patrons currently right now. So thank you very much to our 127 patrons.
Yeah, for sure. Once again, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 127 patrons over there.
All right. If you can't support us financially, support us in some other way. We'll mention you here. Well, this is also financial, but Chris sent Rob an Amazon Canada gift card for some reason. Rob.
Sure did. Appreciated some advice and recommendations. So thank you so much, Chris, for sending that gift card to me. Very nice.
Infinite Gary sent a movie code for me to test, which is just more work for me. But Infinite Gary, it did work. So your code is good.
Confirmed. Thank you, Infinite Gary.
We also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Henry, from Alan, who just wanted to send me my overdue congratulations on finding the perfect new home. He's so excited for the whole family, especially after everything we went through. Thank you very much. And perfect is, I mean, I don't know if there's anything, I don't know if there's such a thing as perfect home, but I definitely went through this first week. I've had a little bit of buyer's remorse, because, like suddenly something stopped working and I was like, or we couldn't get hot water to show up in any of the faucets. It would go in the sinks and the tubs and the showers, but not in the faucets. And it just turned out that we weren't used to which side the hot water was supposed to come out on. And it takes a really long time in this house for whatever reason. You gotta run a bunch of water. I don't know what the deal is with that. But so I was like, it was like 12:30 on Saturday, and I was like running water in every sink in the house trying to get. That's so stupid. David, Infinite Gary, Daniel, Nathan, Chris, Greg, Sasi, Dan, who just saw that project, the makers of the popular debut series Turntables, has a line of CD players ranging in price from $350 to $3,000, and he immediately thought of us. You should immediately think of Andrew because he loves that crap. Eddie, who it wasn't one of the brands Joe and Rob highlighted during our CEDIA 2025 episode, but since we talked about the proliferation of AV over IP, it should be mentioned that the brand Audio Control was also part of that trend with their introduction of their Hyperion series of pre-pros. Audio Control. Okay, so then we got notes of gratitude from Henry, Alan, David, Infinite Gary, Daniel, Nathan, Chris, Greg, Sasi, Dan, and Eddie. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, I'll say the names one more time so they came from my lips. We've got Henry, Alan, David, Infinite Gary, Daniel, Nathan, Chris, Greg, Sasi, Dan, and Eddie. Thank you so much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. Really appreciate them. Big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions. And yes, the brand Audio Control got a very quick mention by Joe, but it wasn't one of the booths he dropped by. So we were just doing it as a slideshow, the places he actually visited in person. So we didn't get to mention those Hyperion pre-pros, but they do exist. AV over IP, part of that trend.
Yes. All right. In the news, Apple held their annual iPhone event last week, and if my social media is to be believed, it was extremely underwhelming. But we will find out here in a second.
Everything leaked beforehand, and no gigantic design changes. The only people I genuinely believe care about gigantic design changes to phones at this point are the tech journalists, because they just want something new to write about. I'm like, I don't want my phone to drastically change every time I get a new one. I'm very happy for things to be in the same place and for things to function the way they used to. I'm very okay with that. And tech journalists always are like, why isn't it a triangle that rolls into a ball and everything is in a weird location? I just want something new to write about. I'm like, I don't think most people want that. But there you go.
I don't know what I was working on the other day, but it was like I wasn't on my text, and I was on my phone, but I wasn't on text, and I wasn't on like a search or something like that. I think it was like on a Word document or whatever, where it just had like normal spell check and the normal sort of recommendations that you would get, instead of having it in the weird keyboard that. Anyways. I was like, oh my God, this is it. Actually, it's completing words and it's suggesting the rest of the phrase that makes frickin' sense. Like at this point, AI is AI. I am going to put that in air quotes until the day they actually come out with something smart. That AI is now so much feeding off of itself that none of it makes any sense anymore. I will literally have a text written. I will look at it and go, yep, that's what I want to say. And as I'm pressing the button, the thing changes a word so that it no longer says what I want. It doesn't even make sense anymore. And then I send it and I'm like, what is happening here? All right, let's talk about the stupid iPhone event. The iPhone 17 finally gets a 120 hertz screen because Google did it and Samsung did it like 10 years ago.
Apple did it years ago just on their Pro series only, so it's about time.
It starts with 256 gigabytes of storage. The iPhone Plus series got replaced by the iPhone Air, and it's the only model this year with a titanium frame instead of aluminum. The camera bump is huge, and there's only one. It's got to be huge because it's thin, and there's only one lens. Whatever. Yeah. The Pro and Pro Max models get an enormous camera plateau on the back.
That was the actual name they gave it. They're like, it's the camera plateau.
Well, if you give it a cool name, then it's not stupid. Yes, it is.
That's right.
With three 48 megapixel cameras, all iPhone 7 variants get a new 18 megapixel square sensor selfie camera on the front, so you don't have to physically rotate your phone between portrait and landscape modes. Okay. Apple Watches all got refreshed and can monitor your blood pressure. Probably poorly. AirPods Pro 3 get new foam-infused ear tips, considerably better battery life, heart rate tracking, and live translation. I am so afraid of the live translation.
I know, right?
Because if you can't tell me what I'm going to type after you have done nothing but watch me type things on my phone, if you can't tell me what the next word I'm going to type is, there's just no chance. There's just no chance. Yeah, the foam-infused ear tips, it was kind of nice because we just had a listener who was looking for the workout stuff, right?
AirPods Pro 3 were the most pleasant. Not everyone knew every single updated feature before it got announced. They were the most pleasant surprise of the entire conference. Those are actually kind of probably a pretty good thing to get at this point of those AirPods Pro 3. So I'm disappointed to see the Plus series like just full stock replaced by the Air because it's a downgrade. The Air is a downgrade. The screen isn't even as large as the old Plus models were. And it's like, so now if you want the big screen like my parents do, just because, my parents are in their 80s and rather than putting reading glasses on every time, they just like to have a physically bigger screen. They've got to go all the way to the Pro Max and the like $2,300 Canadian price tag on that thing. No, give me the darn Plus.
So the funny thing is at the bike shop, when somebody comes in asking, by the way, it's been 20 years. Nobody has ever wanted to buy a bike that was over $150. Like they still come in wanting to buy $100 bike. And it's, the guy who owns the shop's been doing this for 25 years and maybe even more. And he's like, they have never come in here wanting a more expensive bike than that. Sure. Like that's what people want. They want $100 bike. It's like, it's crazy. So what he tells people is like, how much did you spend on your phone? How long's your phone going to last? How long's this bike going to last? Spend at least as much as you spend on your phone. Well, I didn't spend anything on my phone. I got it for free from my carrier. No, you didn't.
Right.
No, you didn't. You paid for it.
But
that's why your Verizon bill is $300 a month. Shut up.
All the people talking about how thin the iPhone Air is, I'm like, no, it isn't. Like, a good amount of it is. A good portion of that phone is very thin. And then there's this big old bump and then an even stickier outer camera lens through the whole thing. I'm like, it's just as fat as every other phone. You can't pass it through a slot that's only 5 millimeters in width.
You're not sliding it under the bathroom door.
An amount of the phone will make it through and then the rest just won't. So no, it isn't that thing. Although, look, I know the iPhone Air makes sense because yes, Apple is going to make a foldable phone at some point. So they're essentially practicing. They're like, here, we'll make it, this thin so that by the time you fold it in half, then once it's folded in half, it'll be about the same thickness as a regular phone at that point. Like, okay, I get it. They're practicing their engineering. It's the only one with a titanium frame anymore. But no, I'm not a fan of the iPhone Air. I think it's dumb.
I'm just... So the only thing I like about iPhones, I know that you can do this in other ways, but the only thing I like about iPhones is is tracking. That's the only thing that I like about it.
The Find My works very nicely.
The Find My, the tracking for my kids and stuff like that.
Sure.
And honestly, I bought, I've talked about this. I bought a bunch of AirTags and put them all over myself. Like I've got one on my bike. I've got one on all the keys.
And they work well.
They work well. And I know that Google has something or whatever, but that's about the only thing that I ever really liked about it. And there used to be a similar feature that was on early Android phones and early cell phones, not even Android, but early cell phones before iPhone really came out. And my brother used to talk about using it all the time, and him and his friends would like co-locate each other, and that's how they met up and that sort of thing.
Right.
And I always thought, I don't want that. But this has been very convenient because my least favorite phone call to get is my wife asking me where I am. Sure. I'm like, don't ask me. Just look at your phone, and it will tell. Well, that might tell me exactly where you are. I don't care. It's close enough. You know where I am.
It's actually probably more accurate than you saying so.
That's right. So, Perlisten has brought their lowest cost A series speakers to the North American market. All 4 models use the same 35 millimeter or 1.38 inch Tetron tweeter, which is made from a polyester and a large circular waveguide that partially overlaps the woofer drivers. Unlike the R series and S series, there are no dedicated mid-range drivers above and below the tweeter. The same 8.5-inch carbon fiber woofers used across all 4 A series models, and the design focus was on maintaining strict plus or minus 2 dB frequency response with even dispersion from 100 hertz up to 10 kilohertz across all 4 models. That's remarkably honest, by the way.
It is. Yep. No, there's one thing we will say is Perlisten specs do not lie. The specs that are on that page are darn accurate.
It's like somebody saying they're 5'6". They're like, man, they're probably not lying about that. Nobody says
me.
They're 5'6".
That's me.
I need to get measured again because the last time I measured myself, I was 5'6", and I've been 5'7" my whole life, and I'm like, I want to get measured. I want somebody who knows. I want like a doctor to do it. But if somebody says they're going from 100 hertz to 10 kilohertz, they're not lying. Because that's not what you would lie about. That's not how you would lie about these things.
Well, that's the range at which they say they're within the plus minus 2 dB, not the typical plus minus 3 dB.
Which is fine.
The minus 3 dB point is like 80 hertz on most of the models. Very reasonable. And then the minus 3 dB point on the top is right up there, 18 to 20 kilohertz. So it's not like you're missing anything, but they're like, we're very strict in that 100 to 10 kilohertz range.
Yeah. So the $3,500 each A4T tower uses 3 of those woofers in a 2.5-way design. Peak output above 100 hertz is rated at 114 dB with its 4 ohm nominal impedance and 350 watt power handling. $2,500 each. The A3T tower drops down to 2 woofers in a 2-way design. It can still reach 113 dB peaks above 100 hertz. Power handling drops to 300 watts. So the number in there is what the number of total drivers. So it's 3 woofers and a tweeter.
I guess so. Yeah, 3 woofers and 1 tweeter is an A4T, and 2 woofers and 1 tweeter is an A3T.
So the $1,800 each. So that was $2,500 each. Wow. Okay.
$25. Yeah, $100 each for the A3T tower. Still not cheap.
I don't know why I keep hitting this mic. It's in a different location, so I apologize.
The least expensive of the Perlisten towers, that's for sure. So
So the $1,800 each A3M monitor also uses 2 woofers is a large 2-way sealed bookshelf. Above 100 hertz, it can still reach 112 dB with its 250 watt power handling. And the $1,000 each A2S is a sealed wedge-shaped wall-mountable surround speaker with a single woofer. This one has 6 ohm nominal impedance and 110 dB peak output above 100 hertz with 200 watt power handling. They're available now at Perlisten's partnership retailers. I am disappointed there's none at A to B bookshelf.
Indeed, right? Maybe that'll come at some point in the future, but
because that's the one I would be looking at.
Sure, it's a nice compact
woofer,
number of speakers.
Yeah, the fact that crossover must be very low from that tweeter, but it's a bigger than
it's a slightly slightly larger than average tweeter. Big old waveguide there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably an 8.5-inch diameter waveguide that matches the diameter of the woofer there to give you quite even dispersion across.
Oh, I see it now. Okay, yeah, that A2. Yes, it's a little disappointing. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, it's not disappointing in and of itself. You're just thinking you'd like a bookshelf version that uses the same driver layout.
I would like a bookshelf version of that. All right, let's get some questions in here. Sasi, first up. Sasi safely received his Apollon Eigentakt amplifier that he initially sent Rob to get his impressions. As Rob recommended, he has settled on using its 27.5 dB gain setting, as it truly does provide a completely silent noise floor when using RCA connections that way, and his receiver has plenty of voltage on its pre-outs to still reach full volume, so good recommendation there.
Hooray.
He tried wiggling the gain level switch, since Rob mentioned that in channel 1, to set to the highest 29 dB setting. Sometimes suddenly dropped in gain since the switch seemed a bit loose, but thankfully it seemed completely stable when he tried it. Not sure what happened, but he's not going to complain or question it.
Maybe shipping to me broke it and shipping it to you fixed it.
There you go.
We'll take it.
Maybe it doesn't work in Canada. Maybe it's racist. It's a racist switch.
As long as, however, you're using it is stable, that's really all that matters. And so, yeah, I never had any problem with the 27.5 dB setting, and it seems like neither does Sasi.
All right. For his own comparisons, he also has a Denon A1H receiver, and he has a Fosse V3 stereo amp on hand. He did his best to level match and even took some very quick measurements in his kitchen with no signal management or treatments or EQ. And even under such poor measurement conditions, the frequent response lines essentially overlap, which you can see in the graphic on the screen or on our flip
whatever non-perfectly overlapping squiggles there are there, I would attribute much more to the microphone and measurement setup than to the being like, oh, look at the amplifier frequency response system. No, it's not demonstrating that at all.
Yeah. Did he maybe hear the Fosse amp starting to compress its output at very high output levels? He couldn't even be sure about that. Well, yeah. So just as Rob said, no audible difference between the amps, which is as it should be, but that dead silent noise floor is real. So no regrets about the purchase.
Yep.
Next up, he heard Eddie ask us about the March Audio.
I don't know how to pronounce this either.
What is this word?
I think it's Ukkonen.
Ukkonen.
Something like that. Yep.
It's Ukkonen. That's too many K's in a row, because there should never be more than one. I guess Broken only has one K. Ukkonen AWG Towers a little while ago. So this is Eddie asking about whatever these things are. The March Audio Towers. Sasi's not heard those in person, but he has heard their little brother, the March Audio Sointuva. What is happening? What are you doing to me?
I don't know what the language these are coming from.
What are these? It's like Dutch. And the Dutch people will tell you, don't try to speak our language. It's too hard.
Right.
Sointuva AWG bookshelf, which uses similar drivers. I apologize for how badly I'm saying these words.
Yeah.
To whoever they are.
I can't correct it because I don't know what the proper pronunciation is.
For what it's worth, he was really impressed by it, incredibly so, in fact. Its clipple measurements back that up by looking virtually ideal in terms of frequency response and dispersion, and the bookshelf version also extends extremely low. March Audio is based in Australia. What? Why? And it's pretty close to being a one-man company run by Alan March. Alan, I have some words and some suggestions for you about your naming of your stupid speakers.
I mean, at least it's not named the same as everybody else. At least he didn't just call it the reference like everybody else does. So, they are unique names. You got to give them that much.
The cabinets are all hand-finished and made from real eucalyptus wood. So, as we said, the prices, while not the lowest, are actually very reasonable. It could be a speaker company to watch. Probably not, but okay. So now that he has become the Matt Damon to our Jimmy Kimmel, let's see if we can just put a little dent in his previous long email.
I moved a few of them up, stuff that was not from the Audio Advice live show. I was like, you know what? It's about time we got to these other things.
Infinite Gary brought up the IMAX enhanced listening modes on newer AVRs or receivers, for those of you that don't keep up with all the acronyms.
Sure.
He
This
agrees
is
with
in
us.
his own words. Yeah,
This is in his own.
I didn't like rewrite these emails at all. So
Okay.
this is in Sasi's own words here.
So he agrees with us that the way base management is handled in this mode is very flawed for consumer receivers and most likely seems like another feature that dealers and installers can use for marketing. But adding to this top, it also seems to be a situation where the original IMAX engineers implemented base management in this way for a very specific use case, and then the marketing company department decided to copy paste this solution for the home without any of the original context. So if you were to guess, in the IMAX theater, the room is absolutely massive. That you don't have to guess that compared to a residential room. I mean, it is. That's not a guess. That's an observation. The room transition frequency is way lower, definitely below 100 hertz. There are far fewer room modes to deal with, and it's also possible that in a space this large, a listener might even be able to localize where deeper bass is coming from. So in a real IMAX theater, does it simply make sense to have every channel run deeper and closer to full range capacity? But again, just because the setup makes sense in a massive room like that doesn't mean that we should use it in our home theater, right? So I don't disagree with what you're saying here in general. I don't think that I think the real problem seems to be is that if it's good for an auditorium, therefore it should be good for your home theater is definitively objectively wrong. You cannot.
And if we're quote unquote bringing IMAX home, then we don't want to change how the signal is handled in a full IMAX theater versus a home, because otherwise, you're going to have the complaints of, well, you altered it. What did you do? I just give me whatever I have at the IMAX theater. Yeah. Just give it to me at home. I can see where they were coming from that.
Yeah, I can see that too. But at the same time, objectively, the problems in a home in a smaller room are so vastly different than the problems that you have in a large room that the solutions for that large room are not the same solutions for the small room. So IMAX Enhance should be, by definition, I believe, should be the IMAX engineer saying, how can we make your home sound like an IMAX theater or sound as good as an IMAX theater? And those solutions to those problems would be different. So just copy pasting because some internet people who do not really understand what's going on. And this is true in every hobby, in every enthusiast group. Invariably, there will be a subset or a vocal subset of people who think that something makes sense, therefore it must be right. Whereas the people who actually work in the industry or work with the products or the technology will say, that's just not how it works. That's just, that's just not how it works. Like, hey, the speaker cables that we, all the speakers are self-powered. Not all, but many times speakers are self-powered or have individual amplifiers for every individual speaker or driver within a large venue, like an auditorium. You see those big rounded, outdoor or even in auditoriums or like orchestra spaces, those big, like sort of like angled speakers that are on like hanging from the ceiling, it's essentially a line array sort of thing that's solving a problem.
Sure is.
That does not exist in your home. So putting those speakers or speakers in that orientation will not solve any, not make it sound like you are in an auditorium, but it will invariably make it sound worse than your home theater space sound worse than it could sound if you just had a solution that was designed to solve the problems that are inherent to that small room.
Espousing the use of full range speakers in all positions at home, like IMAX, that's not unique to IMAX.
Oh God! No.
And then, to their credit, I want to give them credit. They changed after they released it, and people were like, hey, wait, no, just give me a way to do normal bass management. They allowed it. They changed. They allowed the AV receiver manufacturers to override their original schema for how bass was handled and change it to something that works better at home. So I'll give them credit for that, because they didn't have to do that. They could have stuck to their guns and be like, nope, it's full range speakers all around, even at home. But they changed. So yeah, I'll give them that much credit for sure.
Yeah. When we discussed the $5,000 canvas soundbar that Sasi told us about, two things kind of amused him. The first is that I pointed out that their marketing bragged about using super high-end SB acoustic drivers found in speakers that cost much more. SB Acoustics does make good quality drivers, but if anything, in the DIY space, they're more known as a budget darling than a super high-end option. SB Acoustics does have a sub-brand, Satori, which... By the way, Mr. March, Satori is a word that people can pronounce. In case you're wondering,
to do with each other.
In case you're wondering what a word that looks like, the word that could, like, it's not bang on your keyboard until you get a couple of vowels and consonants next to each other.
I don't think that's what happened. That wasn't by mistake, those words that they chose for the names of the March audio speakers.
Anyways, SB Acoustics have a sub-brand, Satori, which does make very high-end drivers, but based on the appearance in the photos, those are definitely mainline SB Acoustic drivers, not Satori. Again, nothing wrong with using SB Acoustics, but that's not anything special for a $5,000 product. For reference, Philharmonic's $1,000 to $2,000 speakers uses SB Acoustic drivers, along with RAL and ScanSpeak, and Sasi has seen the higher-end Satori drivers used in 4 to 5K speakers, like the March Audio, I'm not saying it again, speakers.
So Tuva, I think it is, but yes.
Whatever. So Canvas really isn't using particularly premium components for the price range. It's in line with any other product that has a dealer distributor markup and lower value than internet direct companies like Philharmonic or Send. So is the justification for being a 5,000 soundbar coming strictly from the Bach 3D crosstalk cancellation? I think
just the weird sheer size of the thing.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is designed to make money and also to justify its price. Yeah. So the Bach integration is, hey, nobody else has got it, so we're going to put it in here, and therefore that makes it more premium. And then anything else we can say. I mean, I've seen people bragging about products that have logos on it that I'm like, if you know anything about this technology, that's not a brag. You're not bragging. I have my first carbon bike that I purchased has a sticker on it that says DI2 ready.
Okay.
So DI2 is electronic shifting, and it being ready for it is like saying, this car is gasoline ready.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything. Of course it's gasoline ready. Like the frame, you can put electronic shifting on this bike. You could put electronic shifting on any bike if you try hard enough.
There you go.
Saying that it's DI2 ready doesn't mean anything. And yet there's the sticker prominently displayed, and I can't take it off because they clear coated over it, so I can't get the thing off. And it's just like, why is this here? Well, because somebody's going to look at it and go, no, that's impressive.
Yeah. No, nothing is so far changing my tune on the Canvas soundbar. I still don't think it's something I'm going to be recommending.
No. So the second thing that I mentioned about the Canvas soundbar is that for 5K, they should really build custom, have custom builds and custom sizes for the specific TV it's paired with. That reminds Sasi of a company that actually does build passive soundbars for customers, and that's RBH. So their passive LCR or left center right soundbars range from $2,500 to $9,000. Thank you, RBH. That one's made out of granite, probably, but whatever. The drivers and crossover components are all of similar quality to their mainline speakers from 100 hertz on up. They should perform very similarly. The price is steep due to the fact that it's a dealer product, but part of what you are paying for is that each soundbar is custom built for the customer. And that's not just the exact width of the cabinet. It can include custom paint and color finish, the type of mounting mechanism you use, cable channels cut into the cabinet for routing cables in specific directions. I mean, they build everything on site. So it's really just a matter of calling or emailing them after you put in an order and asking them. Based on my experience with, or Sasi's experience with Shane and Kenny at RBH, they're willing to entertain nearly any reasonable customer customization requests. And this is still way more than Sasi would personally pay for a soundbar. And these are passive bars, not active. But between the customizations and sound quality, it seems like a better use of 5K on audio than the half big block 3D implementation. And that's in Sasi's opinion there.
I still think it's a tough sell, but if that's what you're going for, that's using the money on aesthetics over anything, and then getting good sound quality along with it. So why not? But
Yeah, I agree with that. So there was, I can't remember, Acoustic, I think was the brand, where they had a number of different sound bar and speaker options that would connect to your TV. And those were customizable as well. And sometimes I think RBH even had one. There's a couple of ones where you could, like the cabinet had
Paradigm has that.
Where the cabinet itself can just be extended, but it's not really extending the cabinet. It's just like it's just a baffle or I don't know what you would call it, like a curtain. I mean, it just made to make it look better, which I think is perfectly fine. But if you want something truly custom, and I can see this happening with somebody who's got like, a very specific wood they're working with and a very, very specific stain, and they want everything to match perfectly. Fine, do your thing. And I think a passive soundbar, I mean, honestly, I'd rather just have a passive soundbar than the active one anyways, if at all possible. All right. And that's simply because you then use it with a regular receiver or a, pre-pro, whatever your flavor is. And then when you decide you want to have something else, you're not like, okay, now I have to start all over again.
Yeah, you're not locked in.
You're not locked in. All right, so Sasi said thanks for the feedback on the compact subwoofer several weeks back, probably months back by now. Just like the table he sent us on speaker sensitivity a while ago, he's expecting us to call him unhinged for what he put together this time. In his defense, he was on a 4-hour train ride where he had Excel but no stable internet connection, so what else was he supposed to do? So he charted the CEA 2010 results over for several popular compact subwoofers. So he charted them on this file or whatever. He knows that CEA 2010 uses burst results and you're not supposed to connect the dots to make it look like a frequency sweep, but he did it anyway because it's easier for him to visualize. So here it is. I don't know what, so they're all labeled and stuff.
Big old grain of salt because it is not a frequency response, but yes.
And there's so many that are basically blue that I can't tell them apart. Sure. But so if you have color blindness, you're in trouble.
None of these compact subs are completely flat down to 20 hertz, but the SVS SB2000 Pro comes the closest.
All right. The next thing he did was take the CEA 2010 burst results from 25 to 80 hertz, averaged them, and charted them against the physical volume of each subwoofer in liters. Okay, well, that's
it wouldn't have mattered. The graph would have ended up the same no matter what the metrics were. But there you go. But yeah.
So the dashed line is a trend line for the cluster. So anything above the line is better than the norm. Anything below is worse. So the KEF, the RSL, the Rhythmic F12 for some reason are all below the line. And
just slightly, yeah.
The SVSs are all above the line, which probably just means they have, bigger amplifiers in them or,
That's about it. That DSP control is helping out as well.
Yeah. So the ideal subwoofer for his bedroom would be closer to the top left of the chart, meaning that it has lots of clean output while being smaller in size. This pretty much leads us back to the same conclusion we already came to before, that the SVS SB1000 Pro probably strikes the best balance overall between size and output for a compact subwoofer, not considering price. Not even considering price, even because it's not that expensive. But given that he already knows he wants more output and extension than the SVS 3000 Micro can muster, does there appear to be any other compact subwoofer choice that might supplant the SB1000 Pro as his best option? So that so it's 40 cubic liters. Is that what it is? And it's is that right?
That looks about right. Yeah. No, I mean, I actually neglected to mention this back when we answered this question the first time because I did think of that RSL 10S Mark II, which is not sealed. That is a ported subwoofer. So the RSL Speedwoofer 10S Mark II,
right.
I love to mention that because,
though.
It's compact compared to other ported subs for sure. And then, there it's like just in sheer terms of output, for its size, outperforming even the SVS SP2000 Pro. A very, very good sealed subwoofer, but that's the benefits of having a well-designed ported sub. And if we go back to that other one, it's like, very similar 20 hertz output to that SVS 2000, SP2000 Pro at a considerably lower price point at a just slightly larger cabinet volume. Because on the graph, it's to the right of those sealed subs, but it's not like drastically larger in terms, it's like 1 inch larger, in each dimension. So to me, it would be between, do you want the considerably more compact size of the SVS SP1000 Pro, or do you want the considerably more output and not that much larger of the RSL Speedwoofer 10S Mark II? Those would be the two I would look at most highly.
Yeah, and this just kind of really shows what we've said many, many times, is that, to get, there's only so, this marketing idea that you can get a very small sub to give you a lot of bass.
Right.
It is just marketing. There's only so much you can do. Yeah,
sure.
and physics wins every time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of what this shows here. That as you increase in size, and the KEF in particular is interesting because it is very small, and it doesn't have two drivers.
Yep, dual opposed drivers, just like the 3000 micro. So the KF92 is outperforming the 3000 micro, but at a considerably higher price point, and then it's physically a tiny bit larger than the SB1000 Pro. So it's if you're going for the sheer value and the smallest size you can get away with, then an SB1000 Pro makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah. Infinite Gary. This week, Paramount Plus is launching their new multi-view feature to coincide with CBS Sports' broadcast of UEFA football coverage. UEFA? UEFA? What is UEFA? What is this? Is this soccer?
United European Football Association.
Okay, so it's soccer. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, all you Americans. It's soccer. You'll be able to select groups of 4 matches, 1 match shown in each quadrant of your display, and you'll be able to select which audio feed you want out of the 4 matches on the screen. Paramount Plus has said that they plan to expand the multi-view feature to news and other content in the future. This feels so Black Mirror, I can't even tell you. I don't know why, but it totally does.
Yeah, I mean, this is for, all the people who have always dreamed of having the sports bar set up. It's like you can do it all on one screen because now we can get affordable 98-inch screens.
Yeah. Out of all the things that streaming services have tried to tell you need to switch to them for, this might be the most compelling reason I have ever seen.
Yeah.
This is probably the most compelling. Gary was just curious. He knows there's no chance of what he's about to ask actually being available with this multi-view service, but strictly on a technical level, would it be possible to route the announcer's audio from one match to just the left channel, and the announcer's audio from a different match to just the right channel? He will sometimes have the audio from one game playing on his TV while simultaneously having a different game being broadcast on the radio. For him personally, it's not that hard to focus on whichever announcers he wants to listen to at a time. And he doesn't have to keep muting and unmuting to switch between the 2 different games this way. No one wants this, Gary. No, I mean,
is it possible? Unlikely.
Is it possible? Anything's possible. I mean, it's just technology. Right. Somebody can do it. There's no doubt about that. But no one wants it, and I don't know why you want it, but that's fine. It would be he's got to have I don't know where he is on the ADHD chart, but he's on there. He's on there somewhere, because this is the most ADHD thing I've ever heard. No, I like the idea, and I don't know how this thing is supposed to work. I like the idea of there's 4 games going on, and there's a highlight. The box has got like a highlight box around it, and that's the audio you're hearing.
That's exactly how it goes.
Well, that's all you really need, Gary. I mean, why you got to be weird about it? Like, no one wants 2 announcers going at the same time, because the next thing he'll ask is, can we have full Atmos? Every speaker gets its own announcer.
All 4. So the surround speakers are involved, and they're going to
have 6 or 8 or 10 screens going at the same time, and Gary wants to have all of them playing at the same time.
So yes, on a purely technical level, once your audio is decoded down to just baseline uncompressed PCM, muxing that and mixing it however you want to is technically possible in all the ways. It's exactly the same technological process as having a video game playing, but then having the little alert noises from the operating system for your video game console or your PC overlaid of your game noises, right? Those are two completely different sound sources, but as long as they're both decoded down to PCM, they can be muxed and played together. So yes, on a technical level, it is possible. I doubt they have set up the equipment on the back end to do what you're talking about, but I mean, it's a thing that could technically be done. I just agree with you. I don't think they ever will.
No, it's the call for it would be so small that the amount of money it would cost to make it would never be justified.
If they didn't allow you to choose which of the four's audio you were hearing, like if it was the thing of you choose source number 1 and then choose sources 2 through 4, but then it's always only source number 1 that ever lets you hear the audio. You can never change to the other 4 unless you redo the whole setup. Like people would complain about that. People definitely do want the ability to on the fly change which audio they're hearing, but they do allow that. So that's
it used to be that you could, on the commercials, watch another channel.
Right.
And nowadays, I mean, the last time I dealt with this has been now probably a couple of years ago. But I just noticed how many channels are all showing commercials at the exact, like you can't get away from them.
That's right.
But at least with sporting events, the commercials will be shown sort of offset so that you can, if there's a commercial going on, you can flip to
obviously coincidentally
else.
Sometimes there'll be a break in both games, but they can't plan it out like scripted television.
So you heard the guys from SBS mention during one of their live streams that for most audio applications, they recommend turning Odyssey Dynamic EQ off. That seems to be the direct opposite of our advice. So what are the arguments for either side of this issue? Well, the arguments for keeping Dynamic EQ on is that as you change volume, your bass stays subjectively the same level compared to the rest of it.
It just stays audible. It doesn't drop off when you turn the volume dial down.
And the other side of this issue is people who are wrong.
Well, no, not entirely. There is a perfectly valid argument, which is that Odyssey Dynamic EQ works very nicely when the audio you're listening to has been mastered at cinema reference volume, or at least a reference volume.
That's true.
Odyssey Dynamic EQ does allow you to manually set an offset so that, for example, normally, as long as the volume dial is at 0 dB or above, then it doesn't touch the signal at all. But as soon as you go below 0 dB, it starts to boost the bass a little bit, and sometimes the surround channels a little bit as well. But you can offset that so that it doesn't do anything until you get to -5 or -10 or -15. And that can be very useful for music sources that might have peaks that are as loud as 120 decibels instead of peaks that are 105 decibels like they are in cinema reference volume. So in something like that, if you're aware of that, you can turn the offset down to -15, and therefore you can have your master volume at -15. Your peaks for that content are now at 105 dB instead of 120 dB, and everything still sounds relatively correct to each other the way that it's meant to. So the argument against having it off is, if this is a system where predominantly you're listening to music, and a lot of music is not mastered to cinema reference volume, and so the bass levels can be kind of all over the place, because some of it is mixed to 120 dB peaks, some of it is 110, some of it is 100, some of it is only 95. So having dynamic EQ on at that point, where you might be changing the master volume level fairly frequently from song to song, it can throw off the balance of the bass that you're hearing. Now, there's no guarantee that with it off, the bass is actually sounding the way it's supposed to either, because every song was mastered differently. But that's the argument that I can get behind, where it's like, if you're predominantly a music-based system, I'm not necessarily going to say that you need dynamic EQ on all the time.
The other argument, I think, and I think the more common one we see on places like Reddit and stuff, is that they didn't have problems with their bass until they turned dynamic EQ on. Like the bass sounded good until they turned dynamic EQ on. And the reason that is because usually they're in an untreated or poorly treated room, or a room that has issues. And what happens with dynamic EQ is that as it's trying to keep this bass audible, those issues are being excited more often. And you will see that happen where, like I didn't like dynamic EQ. I got room treatments. Now dynamic EQ is amazing. Right. So, there are arguments on the other side. I like Rob's argument too, because you can say that somebody like me who's always watching just basically video content,
it's
either
mostly
streaming
movies
something,
and TV
movies,
shows. Yeah.
TV shows, dynamic EQ almost always is beneficial for me.
Yeah.
Whereas other people who are doing other things, playing video games or listening to music,
video games can be kind of all over the place. So.
Yeah, you don't really know, and it can be. So and this is sort of personal, but in my use case, I never find a reason why dynamic EQ doesn't work for me. But I mean, the first thing I did was set up the TV and put the couch in there and get everything in. The second thing I did was I had a bunch of room treatments that were just leaning against a wall, and now they're just leaning against a wall in the home theater area.
There you go.
So, I mean, this is the first thing I did, and the difference is actually astonishing. So when I first set up the KEF speakers in there, the toe in, because they're very wide because of the room and the size of the couch, and they're very wide compared to how close they are to me. And the toe in was making a huge difference, and I was really struggling getting a center image, because YouTube in particular will only send out stereo anyways. So I needed the toe in, the phantom center to work, because at first I didn't have the center channel set up, but even then I wasn't getting a center image, any information out of the center channel because of the way that YouTube works. And I was struggling with it. And then I threw a couple of room treatments behind my head and around the speakers so that there was just something there to catch those reflections.
A bit of that boundary effect.
And boy, did that make things immediately sound better. Like I mean, I was like millimeters of difference in the toe in was like making a difference between me being able to get a phantom center or not. And then I put the room treatments up, and it's like, oh, that's fine now.
Right.
The
other thing is, SVS, when they're dealing on customer support, like they're dealing with a lot of people who are set in their ways, and they're like, I always listen at -15, and I always boost my bass output by +10, and that's just how I do things.
Right.
And so they're like, okay, so turn dynamic EQ off, because you basically did the compensation manually. You're set in your ways.
Yes.
You're never going to change those settings. So just turn it off. It's going to sound better to you.
Yeah. So I don't know how those people live, because, I mean, the difference between Netflix and YouTube is like 20 dB.
Sure.
Like, it's not even close. All right. So who are we talking to here?
Still Gary. Yeah.
Infinite Gary. So Gary understands from Rob's answer last week that he cannot take the 700 lumen output figure of his projector and convert that directly to a Nits figure on his projection screen. Rob said to take the real lumens coming out of the projector, divide those by the square footage figure of his projection screen, and then convert those foot Lamberts to Nits. But he's got a couple of extra wrinkles to set up. I'm so close to getting a coffee during this question, because I can just see how this is going to go.
Absolutely.
So it's a 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio screen, 92 inches diagonal, but his projector is outputting a 16:9 image, and he isn't using any anamorphic lens. He's just zooming in the projector to fill the entire width of the screen while projecting the black bars above and below the physical screen. So does that make a difference? And it's a Film Tech, Stewart Film Tech. Okay, let me try this again. It's a Stewart Film Screen Studio Tech 130 screen material with a 1.3 gain. So isn't the gain of the screen supposed to make a difference to how many nits reflected off of it too? Mm-hmm. What then is the process for figuring out how many nits he is actually getting in this setup? The process is to buy a meter that measures them, project it, and then measure it and go, that's how many nits I'm getting.
We don't really have nit meters per se.
Yeah. Well,
we tend to have lux meters.
We should have
lux meters, which would require some calculation as well. But yeah, there are a number of things here that matter. So yes, we do want to be calculating the square footage of the image that the projector is outputting. So when I said, calculate the square footage of your screen, that is, which I didn't mention, so this is a good clarification, that is assuming that the screen is the same aspect ratio as what the projector is outputting. So in this instance, we are, going to start by saying, hey, I know I have a 92-inch diagonal 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio screen. So we can quickly calculate what the width of that screen is, which is 84.65 inches, or 84 and a half or 85 inches is close enough. And so then, just divide that by 16 and multiply by 9 to get the true size of the image that the projector is outputting. And we end up with that calculating to, so it's 84.65 inches wide by 47.62 inches tall, which gives us almost exactly 28 square feet. So we're dividing those 700 lumens by 28 square feet to give us pretty much exactly 25 foot Lamberts. So even though we don't actually have like all of the light that's going out of the projector coming back at us, because the screen that he's using is physically a different shape than what the projector's outputting. When we're trying to calculate how many nits we're seeing off the screen, it's like, the full projected image of the projector, we're dividing the lumens by that square footage, and that gives us the foot Lambert. So it's 25 foot Lamberts on here. Have to basically use an online calculator to convert the foot Lamberts to nits, and that's going to give us 85.6 nits. So what we were saying about trying to hit even 108 for the Dolby Cinema version of HDR, certainly not close to the DCI standard of 300 nits for HDR from a projector. We're at 85.6 nits in this scenario, and this is not an enormous screen. This is 92-inch diagonal, but 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio. So basically a 100-inch screen that we're dealing with here. That said, gain does make a difference. You multiply that final figure that you have by the gain of your screen. So multiplying by 1.3, we get 111 nits. And that's the final answer for what he's got there. So yes, he is just barely hitting that 108 nit figure if he has 700 real lumens coming out of his projector.
Did I come back just at the right time?
Perfect timing. We're on to Mark.
That's hilarious.
I calculated just right.
Oh, good. Mark has about an 18-inch gap from the back of his couch to the wall behind it, and the couch is about 65 inches wide by, I want a 65-inch wide couch, actually, 32 inches tall. The couch reclines, but it's a wall away design, so the seats move forward with the gap, and the gap remains even when he's reclined, and nobody ever walks behind the couch. I can see why. There's no room. So given that he has some absorption panels on the walls, but none that are thick enough to count as base traps, do we think it would be worthwhile to wrap some bats of insulation in acoustically transparent fabric and fill this large gap behind his couch? If so, what kind of insulation would we recommend he use?
I say yes.
I mean, yes. I don't see any reason not to.
You can virtually never have too much base trapping. He essentially doesn't have any, although the couch itself might kind of count as a bit of a base trap in this room. It's probably not hurting anything anyway, but absolutely, yes. If this is an unused space, nobody's ever going to walk back there, you can make it look reasonable and not be an eyesore or whatever. Absolutely, I would do this. Yeah.
Yeah, and just regular insulation. I mean,
I would go with Roxul. It's kind of the easiest to handle, easiest to work with, non-irritating, very easy to wrap in whatever acoustically transparent fabric you want. You can make it the same color, gray color as your other panels. You could make it the same color as the couch. You could get sort of matching fabric color to that couch. You could, of course, just do basic black and have it blend into the shadow. But 100% I would do this. Just get Roxul bat insulation. Don't stuff it to the point that it compresses and squishes. Yes. You want it to remain open and fluffy, but I would 100% do this idea.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. Mm-hmm. Henry, so after years of saying they were going to do it, Spotify has finally added lossless audio streaming to their premium subscription packages. Mm-hmm. Obviously, lossless audio is something that has been available from other music streaming services for some time now, and all of the services pretty much follow the same strategy for offering a free or cheaper lossy tier and then charging extra if you want the lossless version. Mm-hmm. So why can't all of the video streaming services do the same? Why is it not even possible to get lossless audio for our streaming movies and TV shows, even from individually purchased titles from the likes of Apple Movies or Fandango at Home? If the only way for it to make financial sense is to charge a bit extra, so be it. But shouldn't we at least have the option by now? Pay the lower price for movies with lossy audio and pay extra for lossless audio. But pay lower prices for movies with lossy audio and extra for loss. Why? Well, okay.
It's a very reasonable argument. If we can do it in streaming music, why can't we do it for streaming movies?
Well, yeah. That guy is going to get killed. I don't know why he is on his bicycle on that street. That is insane. Those people drive
Tom
fast.
has entertainment outside his window.
I keep seeing the head of the. I don't see any fence. I see the head of the fence guy popping up every once in a while, but no fence. All right. So why can't they? I think there's always the supply and demand argument that you have to make in cases like this. What if you said to people, we can give you lossless audio if you pay more, will you pay more? And
this is very much cost benefit ratio. Yeah. That's exactly what's going on. Cost benefit ratio.
Are people going to pay more for that lossless audio? And I think the answer is, for the vast majority of people, they would say, why would I even want that? Like, what benefit is that giving me? Now,
some subset will.
Well, yes, but how large is that subset?
That's right.
And the answer is not large enough, or they would do it. I think the audio is always going to follow video and maybe follow far behind video when it comes to how what people are willing to pay for and what their marketing is going to push.
That seems to be very much borne out with evidence.
Yes. So we will see lossless, if you will, video far before we see lossless audio. Like the lossless audio will either follow along as if, well, we're already giving you lossless video, so you will also get lossless audio. Not here's lossless audio, but lossy video. Those two things don't make sense.
I mean, it will always be lossy video because the amount it would take for actually lossless to raw video would be tremendously huge. Yeah. We've never had lossless video. But yes, I mean, perceptually lossless versus what we could get on, say, a Kaleidescape or from a physical disc. I mean, the thing is, on the one hand, our movies and TV, usually that's surround sound, so translating that to lossless would mean even greater bandwidth than what it is for the stereo audio we're getting from our streaming music services. So there's a little bit of a technical justification that it is even more bandwidth in the case of sending lossless surround sound. But I mean, it's not. Compared to the amount of bandwidth that goes to the video side of things, it's really still not that much. So, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. There's no technical reason. We have lossless surround sound audio formats that absolutely could be streamed. So it's not like the codec just doesn't exist and has to be invented. That's definitely not the case. Also, I would be completely willing, as a consumer who cares about audio quality, to just go to maximum bitrate Dolby Digital Plus, which is technically still lossless, or lossy rather, but I would defy you in the maximum bandwidth version of Dolby Digital Plus to actually be able to hear the difference. Like it is completely perceptibly, not something that you can perceive the difference there, but they are using a relatively highly compressed version of Dolby Digital Plus to send us Atmos or just to send the regular surround sound. So yeah, I mean, just going to higher bitrate Dolby Digital Plus, there's certainly no technical reason why that could not be done. And if they want to charge extra to do it, maybe to get away from lawsuits, they couldn't call it lossless, but they could do, high quality or lossless-like or whatever stupid word they have to invent to get around it if they're going to do it that way. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I don't entirely know what, if offering lossless audio has been in any way a selling point for the streaming music services, then obviously it's not all of their customers. It's not even the majority of their customers, but it is some subset. So why wouldn't that apply to the video side of things if you could offer it? I agree with you, Henry, and there is no technical reason why they couldn't do at least better quality audio than they're doing right now. But
you're not buying audio when you get a streaming service.
That's just it, yeah.
That's just, I mean, it's like saying, when you're out there purchasing a car or a house or something like that, we upgrade the grass on your house. Sure. You're like, well, that's not really what I care about. That's not the thing that I'm buying.
Both the audio and the video that they're looking for in all the streaming services is good enough.
Yes.
Good enough that we're not getting complaints about it. Good enough that we're not getting a large amount of churn that's due to the quality not being high enough. So, I mean, they are looking to make a profit, which means that they are trying to send as little bandwidth as they possibly can. Yeah, I mean, it's really just dollars and cents. It's really just cost-benefit ratio from their point of view. Not from our point of view as the consumer who cares about this stuff, but from their point of view, it's just a cost-benefit ratio calculation.
David, who is stationed in Japan. David got back to us about the pair of KEF LS50 Meta speakers he bought from one of the major nationwide electronics recycling shops in Japan. Mm-hmm. The plan was to replace his large RBH speakers with a much more appropriate size for his new enclosed home theater room KEFs. And he also tested the pair of KEF LS50 anniversary speakers that he bought with the intention of using just one of them as a center while keeping the others a spare. He admits that he was just using an SPL meter app on his iPhone to check the decibel levels, and the app was only measuring an A weighting with fast response. But even so, from only 6 feet away, the KEF should be able to play louder than 84 dB according to that SPL meter app, right?
Yeah, so this is something that Lee and I dealt with last week, so Tom has not heard about all this, but the upshot, just for Tom's benefit, is that the LS50 speakers that he got were, like, not able to play over 84 dB. They were just, like, massively distorting. He thought perhaps even bottoming out, and we're like, that's not right. From this very small enclosed room, from 6 feet away, the LS50s are not as capable in sheer output as your much larger RBH speakers. That is objective fact, but they should be able to get over 84 dB. And yes, even though it's A weighting instead of C weighting, like, it doesn't make that big of a difference.
Yes. His RBH speakers certainly could, no problem, and they could even get so loud that his Apple Watch started warning him that he was in a dangerously high noise environment. But all 4 of the KEF speakers started sounding horribly distorted and on the verge of bottoming out as soon as they got above 80 dB, according to that SPL meter app. And even if the app was wildly wrong in its readings, his ears could easily tell how much quieter they were than his RBH speakers.
Yeah.
As we had said on the podcast last week, given that the first pair he bought were from an electronics recycling depot, maybe there was a chance that one or even both of them was damaged by the previous owner. But all 4 of the KEF speakers, that seems rather unlikely. No? Yeah. So on Rob's advice, he decided to give the KEF speakers one more chance before selling back the LS50 Metas and returning the LS50 anniversary pair. Rather than using the front, left, and right speaker binding posts with Odyssey on bass management applied and in the stereo listening mode, he connected them to the Zone 2 binding post with no Odyssey or bass management, and in the direct listening mode, which is how he had connected and compared his large RBH speakers. And wouldn't you know it, the KEF LS50s were able to play way louder without any audible distortion. If he turned them up loud enough to where his Apple Watch was giving him high noise warning, he could maybe start to hear some... What is happening here? I'm sorry. He could maybe start to hear some distortion in the bass. So they still can't play quite as loud or as low as the RBH speakers, which is understandable because they're much larger.
That's right.
But that is perfectly within his expectations. So first up, a big thank you to Rob for getting to double check, because the KEF LS50s themselves were not inherently to blame. Furthermore, he thought he was giving the KEFs their best shot at sounding good by bass managing them, but doing the test in direct listening mode, which turns bass management and Odyssey off, let him realize that LS50s can produce surprisingly authoritative bass, at least with music. His RBH speakers...
Yes, direct mode, in pure direct mode, they turn off your bass management, they turn off Odyssey automatically.
So his RBH speakers can play louder and lower, but the LS50s wound up surprising him once they were freed from whatever was wrong before. So the obvious question then, what the heck went so wrong?
Yeah.
He had initially connected the KEFs just like any other speakers he's ever used before. He ran Odyssey. It set all 3 of the KEFs up front to small, but gave the front, left, and right a 60 hertz crossover frequency, the center a 40 hertz crossover, and he manually raised all those to 80. Mm-hmm. Dynamic EQ was on. Dynamic volume and low frequency containment were off. The LPF for LFE was left at 120. He didn't touch the distances, trim levels, or EQ. He discovered 2 things. Odyssey Editor app can actually work with this X3500H, and he was able to see a rough graph of what Odyssey had done the first time using the check the results option in the Dent Odyssey settings that showed him the following EQ, which this is what it's doing. So it was seriously boosting around 10 to maybe 300 hertz, 10 kilohertz to 300 hertz, and then boosting right around 100 hertz, and then cutting right around, maybe 70 on down. It was
up around 100 hertz, a huge boost to the point that it's like it's to the max of the scale that it allows to show, and followed immediately below that by a big cut, which is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah.
So are those massive EQ humps just above 100 hertz the culprit? If so, why would Odyssey have done that? And will running Odyssey again this time via the editor app be enough to fix the situation? Because frankly, running them with Odyssey turned off has been really enjoyable now. So should he even bother?
I think this was just an error.
This screams of microphone placement to me.
I mean, not even necessarily placement. It might be the case where the microphone wasn't quite plugged all the way in, or sometimes just coincidentally, like right when it was setting the trim levels, there was like a big noise, and so it massively lowered its gain and ends up doing these huge EQ boosts to try and compensate. And then when you play it back, you're not playing it back with what the microphone was hearing when it massively lowered its microphone gain. So this absolutely indicates to me that there was a microphone problem when you did that first Odyssey setup, for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a couple links here to help you out, but there's a microphone. I have a microphone because how to position your microphone correctly for Odyssey in particular, but room correction in general. But I'll try to find a few more articles in AV Gadgets, but you can kind of search around over there. I think this is not a problem with Odyssey. I don't think this is a problem with you. I think that something went wrong somewhere, and people make mistakes, and sometimes computers hiccup or whatever. So
sometimes microphone jacks are ever so slightly loose, and it can cause this like massive electrical noise that is not apparent to your ears whatsoever, but inside the system is like, oh my god, what is going on? And you never know about it until after. So
I'd go so far to say if you run it like one or two more times and it keeps doing this, I'd get a new microphone.
I'd get a new microphone, exactly.
Yeah. And you're like, how do I know that I've got the right microphone and that it'll be whatever? It'll be close enough. It'll be better than this.
The Odyssey microphone has been standardized for years and years and years. It's the exact same model of microphone they've been using forever. So you can get an Odyssey replacement microphone. Because look, he's moved a bunch of times. The possibility that the mic is literally got physically damaged, not out of the question. But then again, like I say, it could just be that the jack was slightly loose when you ran it the first time. You run it again this second time, and everything is perfectly fine. And then you're like, okay, obviously it was just some kind of technical glitch that happened the first time. But if you get very similar results, then I would replace the mic.
So Mark, speaking of David in Japan, Mark is a little behind in listening to AVRant episodes, but he heard David's question from several weeks ago about converting the power in Japan and how we mentioned an online battery backup, such as IO Gear's professional UPS, that I reviewed on AV Gadgets. Mm-hmm. So what about a portable battery backup generator? Didn't I actually get one of those from Anker shortly after the flooding? Mark knows that Anker makes a variety of sizes. Are they able to simultaneously supply power while recharging themselves from the wall outlet? If so, could that be a solution? I do have one of those. And they do make them in various sizes. Mm-hmm. Like they make big ones for like your whole house.
Sure.
It's in fact, I have a friend who has one, and they have it running off the mains, and I think they have a solar panel they can throw up on the roof to power it, to charge it as well. And then they had an electrician come over so that they do the right, they have it all connected so that when the power goes off, it'll flip over to this battery backup. Without killing people that are working on the lines.
Right.
Could this be a solution? I mean, absolutely. As far as I know, they do. As far as I know, you do run it off the battery, but I'd have to double check.
Yeah, because like the point of this would be that whatever you've got plugged into it is always drawing the power from the battery, and then the Anker device being plugged into the wall is just to recharge itself. That's what's going on when you use the online version of like that IO Gear battery backup. It's like you're only ever powering the stuff that's plugged into the IO Gear from the built-in battery, and it's just using it to recharge itself. Now, that IO Gear had the option of changing to an inline battery backup, where at that point the things plugged into the IO Gear are actually getting their power from the wall outlet, and that battery is there just as a backup so that if the power from the wall outlet goes down, it instantaneously switches over to powering from the battery. So that's an inline versus an online. But yeah, how exactly the Ankers work, because I don't have one to test myself, so I don't know if it's like always powering from the battery even when it itself is plugged into the wall, or if it works more like an inline battery backup where if if it's plugged into the wall, it sends the power through from the wall to the devices and just has the battery there as a just in case, or if you're always drawing power from the battery. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like, Tom, you're 100% sure on that. Looking it up right now is what's going on?
I am trying to look it up right now, yeah. I'll do it in a second. We got to go to the next question. Yeah. Daniel is becoming an apartment dweller. Sorry, been there. He's on the first floor in his building. Rob lives in an apartment too, right? Yet for some, shall we say, significant, and he has some significant subwoofers and amps as well.
I do.
So how does that work with neighbors on either on the other side of the wall and such? Did Rob have discussions with the neighbors to figure out exactly how loud he can play the things before the neighbors found it too loud? Any suggestions or recommendations on the best way to still be able to enjoy his home theater but without being a bother to the rest of his building? He does already own a butt kicker LFE tactile transducer, but he would miss hearing and feeling genuine bass output, so any advice will be appreciated. I will say that if you're going to have a bass kicker, you now have to put isolation stuff underneath your couch.
Oh, which is part of the package anyway.
Yeah.
They make sure to give you some rubber compliant feet to go under your seat for that. The tactile transducer won't really work properly unless you have something squishy under the feet of the chair that it's attached to anyway. So first of all, I was very aware when I was buying my apartment, home theater was a huge priority for me, and it's just me, so I can choose the one that I want to. I didn't have to satisfy a significant other when it came to choosing my apartment. So I was very careful in that, I chose a concrete high-rise, so that does help. Concrete high-rises, even though concrete still transmits vibrations, it's not as bad as a, low-rise wood-structured building. And then I made sure that the one I bought had an enclosed room that I could use, and so I've got someone below me, I've got someone above me, I'm on the 4th floor, but there is no shared wall of my home theater room. It's like the den in my apartment is what I'm using as my home theater room, and on the other side of that wall is the hallway. It's not like an apartment directly next to me. So yeah, I was careful to make sure that I had, the building construction and the placement of the actual room that the home theater was going to go into, where I had as few shared walls as possible. So that's obviously not going to be the case for everybody who's living or, buying or renting an apartment. You're not going to always be able to choose that sort of thing. So the other things you can do, number one, yes, decouple everything that you possibly can, right? Everything that is creating its own source of vibration whatsoever, decouple it. It makes a massive difference. I have my pair of PC13 Ultra, now upgraded with the amplifiers, but I have those on top of the old Auralex Subdued platforms. Even though it's already got its own platform built into those, I have it on those Subdued platforms to be as decoupled as it possibly can, so that physical vibrations are not being transferred into the floor of the rest of my building. Yes, I did talk to my neighbors, so I'm fairly friendly with the neighbors on my floor. Now, I haven't really talked to the neighbor that's directly above me. I've talked to the neighbor that's below me. But the other thing that I do is I never watch movies late at night, not on that system. If I am watching something, I'll put on headphones so that I can have them nice and loud in my own ears, but not be bothering anyone else. I watch movies early afternoon. Most people in the building are already out at work because I take Tuesdays and Wednesdays off of work, and those are my days to watch movies at home in the middle of the afternoon. So the chances of bothering somebody are really, really low. And then I've gone outside of my own apartment into that hallway that's right on the other side of the wall of my den, and I've turned up the volume. I can basically turn it up as loud as I want in my very small, dedicated, enclosed room where I'm very close to my speakers. I can turn it up as loud as I want to and not hear anything on the other side of the wall. So I'm reasonably confident I've never, ever had a complaint from anybody. But, I'm doing a lot of things, a lot of caveats to that. So whether you can consider that advice, I'm not sure, because that's just not realistic living situation for everybody. So, the number one thing is decouple everything. Absolutely. Try to have the room enclosed, because that makes a big difference, right? If you're trying to enjoy some nice bass, if you don't have doors that you can close, that makes a gigantic difference to you, the audience member. And then, yes, talk to your neighbors. Absolutely. Do the tests yourself and just try to be a good neighbor about it. If the only way you can enjoy some tactile bass is having your butt kicker LFE, could be worse. I love the butt kicker LFE. It can do a very nice job of not being a gigantic distraction and reasonably simulating that tactile feeling. So I think that's about as much as I can say on that one.
All right. Greg. Aaron from Aaron's Audio Corner posted his YouTube review and clipable measurements of the Ascend Acoustic Sierra LX bookshelf speakers. We really should talk about Ascend more on this.
We'll never mention them.
We never mention them around here. He previously had a lot of praise for the updated Sierra 1 V2 bookshelf speakers, but he seemed a little less impressed by the Sierra LX. And particularly pointed out how the LX have been tuned to play down to a deeper bass extension than many other similarly sized bookshelf speakers, but that seems to have come at the expense of them being lower in sensitivity, though they have high power handling to compensate for that. And when pushed to high output limits, they have measurably higher distortion. You note that if you cross them over into a subwoofer at the typical 80 to 100 hertz range, that seems to free them up a bit to play louder without audible distortion. And the dispersion design is such that they are susceptible to having a floor ceiling bounce or dip right around the 2K region unless you acoustically treat your first reflection points, which clears that up. Mm-hmm. So at their $1,600 price point, he praises their overall very neutral frequency response and noted their benign impedance curve, which should make them a very easy load for any amplifier, although their lower sensitivity demands lots of watts if you want higher output levels. But they, gasp, have limitations as well. And since
not limitations.
Since he didn't heap praise upon them, that stirred up the forums and got the comments sections into a tizzy. Man, I wish people would just settle down. He hasn't measured the Sierra 2 EX V2 or the larger, more expensive ELX series, but do we think he'll discover similar limitations? Or is the whole thing overblown in our opinions? If you ask me if something online is overblown, I immediately say yes.
Yes. Oh, I had to laugh. Because I was like, so first of all, most of Aaron's reviews are his clipable measurements, which is like, it's just clipable measurements that they are what they are. And it's like, if you see a little dip at 2 kilohertz when you didn't treat the first reflection points, and then there's basically no dip when you do treat the first reflection points, it's like, well, it's not crazy to treat your first reflection points with a given speaker. These are very horizontally wide dispersion speakers, not super surprising. It's like, just look at the size of them. Oh my goodness, they can't play as loud as tower speakers with triple 8-inch drivers in them with its single 5 1/4-inch woofer. And then like all of the limitations he mentioned, like there was nothing in Aaron's review. I watched the whole review. There was nothing in there that made me go, oh, that doesn't seem right. I was like, oh yeah, that's completely reasonable. David Fabricant has been plain in his explanation that one of the major design goals with the Sierra LX model in particular is he wanted a speaker that could play similar extension to their tower speaker, but in a bookshelf form factor. Like that was straight up one of the design goals. It's not a design goal that I personally love. I don't love making bookshelf speakers try to play really, really low because it comes at the cost of output headroom. It's just, it has to. It's a two-way speaker with a 5 1/4-inch woofer, and making that thing play down to 35 hertz, something's gotta give.
Yeah.
Like, there were no surprises in this, but it's like, oh no, Aaron didn't declare it's the best speaker and the highest value to have ever existed. Oh no, if you try to make a two-way speaker with a 5 1/4-inch driver play down to 35 hertz at 98 dB sustained, there's some distortion. Like, yes, everything was completely reasonable. And ultimately, he's like, hey, really nice, flat, neutral response. If you do treat your room, even more so. If you do cross them over like you should with a bookshelf speaker, most of that distortion at the high output range kind of goes away because it's not trying to play down to 35 hertz anymore, which is evidently where most of the distortion was coming in, which is not at all surprising. I was like, I had to laugh and laugh because I'm like, yeah, he wasn't slamming Ascend, far from it, for all the people who were like trying to defend Ascend to the nth degree. He wasn't in any way contradicting his review of the Sierra 1 V2 because that had different design goals. It's at 2/3 of the price. It's a, $1,000 a pair instead of, or $1,100 a pair instead of $1,600 now, right? So it's like lower cost, different design goals. And he's like, hey, given all of that, he had a lot of praise for that. He's like, with the LX, he's like, be aware, this thing has some limitations. There was a design goal that like it cost you somewhere else. That's just what's going to happen sometimes. And then people were like, oh, he's reviewed other $1,600 per pair speakers later that he was like more effusive about. I'm like, yeah, I probably would have been too. I didn't get what any of the kerfuffle was about, and the measurements were what they were, and they completely agreed with Dave's own Klippel measurements, because Dave at Ascend has his own Klippel measurement device, and it's like the graphs were essentially superimposed on top of each other, so it's not like there was some disagreement between what the manufacturer measured and what this reviewer measured. Like, they're exactly the same. He did point out in his measurements of the particular pair that he was measuring that it seemed to have like this little bit of a tipped up in the very high treble, where above 10 kilohertz. Pretty hard for most people to hear anyway. But he's like, he measured this like tipped up response above 10 kilohertz and wasn't quite sure what was there. Did some things, did some adjustments. It actually came down a little bit, and then talked to Dave. He like did his due diligence, and he's like, yeah, that's kind of within the tolerance range for that part. It's like sometimes it's a little bit louder above 10 kilohertz, sometimes it's a little bit quieter. So maybe the one he posted on his website was on the quieter end, and the one that Aaron happened to get was on the higher end. So there's like a 3 dB difference at 17 kilohertz. Like, good luck hearing it, folks. But, people spazzed out because there was a difference in the graph. So, yes, it's a whole lot of kerfuffle over nothing, and it was a very reasonable review, and it's one that I agree with.
All right. I can't figure out this Anchor thing. They definitely have online battery backups. That's definitely a thing.
Okay.
I just don't know where. It doesn't say in any specific product where which one they are. You would have to look at them, and I think it might be like the bigger whole home things.
Probably, yeah. But get in touch with them, ask that question. I'm sure they'll. Anchor is a very responsive company. I like them for that.
And if you can't get somebody at Anchor to respond to you, I got a guy, and he will respond to you.
There you go.
Eddie, first of all, how long have we been going?
We are just over 2 hours now, so if you want to stop, we can.
Okay, I can delete this because I'm not doing that. Let's do Eddie, since I already said his name.
Sounds good.
Then we'll be done. Eddie, is it true that some movies on Kaleidescape only have 5.1 audio, while the disc release of the same movie has Atmos? Why would that be? Isn't Kaleidescape supposed to be the best across the board? I mean, Kaleidescape only has access to what the studios will give them access to.
Correct.
Is my understanding. So if the studio says this is what you get, that's what they got. It's not like they can. It's not like they're going to. I was going to say, where do you buy videos anymore? I don't know. They're not buying discs and ripping them and then sending them to you.
No. Kaleidescape is getting mezzanine files from the studios directly. Yeah.
So
that's part of the selling.
If that's what the studio has sent them, then that's what they got, and that's it.
Yeah. This is very few and far between. It is essentially never the case for newer movies. But there are some catalog titles. There are some catalog titles where there are examples where what is available from Kaleidescape store is the maximum they have is HD, 1080p. In standard dynamic range, and there exists a 4K HDR version. Very often the 4K HDR version is only available on streaming. But for, whatever studio reason, Kaleidescape was only given the mezzanine file for the 1080p standard dynamic range version. Like I say, almost never the case for newer movies, but there are some small amount of catalog titles where what Kaleidescape has available in their store is not the very highest audio or video version that is in existence in some other form in the world. So yeah, that's really all it comes down to. That it's not like Kaleidescape is not a studio. They are not buying these movies from studios outright. They are getting a license to offer them to their customers. They are being provided the mezzanine files by the studios. They're doing the compression themselves. But if what the studio provides them is 1080p SDR with 5.1 audio, then they can't do much to offer more than that to their customers. But yeah, it's not something where I'd be like, oh, that's a reason to never buy from Kaleidescape. It's like, it's pretty few and far between at this point. The other thing is, if and when Kaleidescape gets access to a higher quality version from the studio, they basically give that to you for free. If you purchase the 1080p version and they gain access to a 4K version, you've got access to that as a customer without having to pay extra. Similar to how Apple has done, updates to their Apple Movies catalog in the past. So but that's what's going on there. And yes, there are a few examples you can point to.
So who we have left, Rob?
I believe it's just Alongo on the list. No, I'm wrong because we also had Leighton on the list. So Alongo and Leighton are on the list. And then, we got a little dent because I made it first of Sasi's gigantic email dump from before. But everything he said about Audio Advice Live, which is like way in the past now, it's historical documentation. But we still have it just in case.
Just in case, because we often run out of questions. All right, I want to thank our listeners of the week. We want to thank Sasi for going to avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 127 patrons over at patreon.com.
That is for sure. Sasi, thank you so much for that PayPal donation. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 127 patrons over there.
Thank you to Chris for sending Rob an Amazon gift card, and Infinite Gary for sending a movie code for me to test.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Gary.
We also want to thank those who sent in notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going, including Henry, Alan, David, Infinite Gary, Daniel, Nathan, Chris, Greg, Sasi, Dan, and Eddie. Thank you very much for thanking us.
Yeah, nice long list, and I'll say the names one last time. We got Henry, Alan, David, Infinite Gary, Daniel, Nathan, Chris, Greg, Sasi, Dan, and Eddie. Thank you so much for your notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered, all you have to do is ask. Ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Andrew.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com.
This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.